says live on YouTube, but I lost Rachel.
I'm here.
There you are.
Okay, you guys are good to go.
Hi, guys. I hope you've enjoyed our OLATT chats. If you haven't seen them yet, go back and check them out. Today, Rachel and I will be telling you about our grand adventure, going really off grid.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do a deep dive on possibly one of the most adventurous trips I've ever had with one, maybe in my life. I was going to say one library at a time, but I think it might just be my whole life.
Yeah, I don't think I've even told my husband about that adventure.
The details, because there's some ones I hope we get into today, Susan. I'm going to try not to laugh this whole time, because bringing up the photos and remembering this thing has been almost a tearjerker in a good way. So the location of this library was in the Comarca Nove Bugle, which is like a reservation the Panamanian government set up, I think in the 60s, to give to indigenous peoples some rights to actual,
a piece of land, yeah,
right, in Panama. And so we were working in a little village called Quebrada Arenas in Panama, in the mountainous region, very west of the canal. And I'm not quite sure we even knew what was coming. Now, I will say, I did go there before you guys even came down. You and your niece, Susanna, came on this trip. And I was still a Peace Corps volunteer, but I was very much coming to the end of my service. I did some traveling after that, and then I had scheduled to come back to meet you guys when you got into the country. But about a couple of months before you came, I'd already been talking to Jeremy and sort of trying to start helping Peace Corps volunteers connect with library organizations and resources. And so I got the opportunity to go up there and see his site. And Susan, they built this library from the ground up. And so Jeremy scheduled it so that I could come up there and take pictures of the site, but also take pictures of the actual library going up. And it's such a distinct memory in my head, because it's one of the only times I remember in the span of a day seeing nothing. And then by the time I left, there was very much the four post and the very thick
roof, yeah,
thick framed roof. That ended up being finished by the time you guys got there. And the photos that we'll post after the conversation, people can see what I saw on that first trip.
It was a bamboo hut, right. And they had just poured the concrete before we got there. And one of the things that happened is you and Susanna slept on the floor in air mattresses or something, and there was no more room, and Jeremy was up in this loft, so I slept on a yoga mat in the library, and it was crazy. The concrete was still curing, so it was wet. But every morning, the coolest thing, I'd see these eyes peering at me through the bamboo. And there's no electricity there, so you get up when the sun gets up. And so I got dressed and I opened the door, and they said they wanted some books. So I gave them some books and told them where to put them, and went to breakfast at Jeremy's and fixed my special oatmeal. And when I got back, all the books were exactly where I told them to leave them. So before we had even finished the library, kids were coming and sitting there and reading them.
Already interested in the work. And Jeremy, I think Jeremy was the name of the Peace Corps volunteer that we were working with. He had organized a library committee, And I think they, along with other people in the community, helped to come together and build it. So they had the thatch. And then we came back with me and you and Susanna, it was completely finished. And the library, they also did, not only did they put in the labor, they did a raffle, which around the community, and you had to pay in $1. And I don't even think I remember what the prize was, but I was just so impressed that they had, creatively tried to gather funds, and he got a Peace Corps grant. And so he pulled from a lot of ways in a very remote location to make the library happen. And let's not forget, Susan, the trek into the site.
Oh, have mercy. We rode in on this, for lack of a better word, a mercantile truck, and it had, the regular truck back, and then it had 2 metal rails and all these boxes of stuff. And Susanna and I got in the front seat, and you and Jeremy were hanging out in the back. And he would stop periodically to sell individuals things and to bring goods for other little communities. And the road was the most interesting road I've ever been on. And at one point, I remember we were going downhill and he had the truck in reverse. And one time we were going, and that's what happened to you, the sideways thing. And you and Jeremy, where were you?
We had most of the trip, we had been inside the cage that was keeping in the snacks on the truck bed. We'd been inside there. But at this point, when we're going down the hill, I mean, I don't even know if we can call it like a carved out road, Susan. It was like definitely a sharp decrease in terrain and ravines. I mean, all the way down the thing. I didn't think we were going to make it down. Well, Jeremy instructs me for us to get out, to climb out over the snacks, out on the outside of the cage. So the truck is very, very quickly becoming vertical. and Jeremy and I at this point are on the outside of the cage. And he looks at me and he says, get ready to jump.
Yeah, because the thing was, I was convinced it was going to roll.
And I thought, I was like, well, I mean, you think in these moments, these life and death moments, because it could have very easily turned that way. You think you're going to be nervous, you're going to not know what to do. But I was so thankful for some direction. I mean, he just looked at me, caught me, just get ready to jump. I mean, it was perfectly timed in that wedge of a moment where we didn't know what was going to happen. So I thought, okay, I know exactly what to do. I know exactly where to do if this thing goes. And I think on the front end, you were sending up some prayers for us.
Oh man, I was praying so hard. I said, God, if this goes really bad, just kill me, because I don't want to talk to their mothers. And it was, and we did that, and then remember we drove through the creek. We were
it was endless. It was endless. But we were thankful to be able to get the 50 pounds plus a piece luggage
full of books.
Into the site, because I don't know how we would have delivered the luggage. But it was fun. The funny part was, I don't think that we realized we were going in on Mercantile Central until we were in the truck atop the coffee and the sugar stacked several times on top of itself.
And Vienna sausages, because they don't have to be refrigerated.
Right. Right. In the baked sun. So Jeremy and I were just baking if we weren't underneath any kind of shade, because it was just the metal cage. And I started realizing what was happening after he made like probably the second or third stop, and not just stops to little stores along the way. Actual people. He was stopping for actual people and selling stuff. So we were basically on his selling route for the couple of hours into the site. And then so that was interesting to discover while you were in the middle of it. And then when we got there, he said he looked at us and said, yeah, that he didn't know if he was coming back.
And we're sitting there going, is this a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't know.
But yeah, when we got there, they had little shelves in the library. We ended up leaving one of our suitcases as they were shelves. We made them into shelves, and up until it was the day of that the day we were supposed to be traveling back to civilization, we still didn't know how.
Yeah, so those couple of days in his community, it was kind of a question mark. The community itself was a generous people, very kind of all of life was sort of very slow, and we bathed in, which I know, right? Should we really talk about our bathing habits? But it on video, but it was so unique because it was so off grid that the bathing was really, let's go down to the river behind Jeremy's house and just sort of recline yourself with your clothes on into the water and hope that things get clean.
And I had some little soap, and we used it for everything. To wash our hair, to wash our clothes, to wash our face, everything. Mm-hmm. And I remember, I had this one little pink kind of dress, and I remember being in there and trying to wash it all and realizing that just wasn't gonna happen. I remember how they never dried.
Yeah.
We would go up, change clothes, and hang them on the line. And we only had 3 outfits per person or something. So we would get the least wet clothes off the line to wear another day.
And that's because Jeremy lived in it was so well covered. Once we finally made it to a site, it was dense in the mountains, and it would get it would get sunny some, but then it would have days where things wouldn't dry, and it would just kind of sort of be the same temperature, and it wouldn't get any sunlight. And those climates where it rains a lot, it was that sort of situation. But I also remember Susan, at the river, people didn't know if you were down there or not. So I think that's why we weren't derobing, because you had to if you heard anybody coming, we would try to make some sound to make it clear that it was occupied, ocupado, as we say in Spanish. It's occupied down here. Come back in a little while. Oh, so that was interesting. But I think for food, a lot of times especially in the last couple of years, we try to pay somebody in the site to cook for us during the day, because we're focused on getting the work done and we don't have as much time to cook. So I think we paid Jeremy's host mother like $2.55 a meal or something. We brought in the groceries and she cooked for us for a couple of days. And he had a huge host family. I think there was multiple.
There were. Well, I remember there was
host siblings.
A grandmother, there was 4 generations actually of women that lived in the house.
Yeah. And a lot of siblings.
Great grandma, grandma, mother, and child.
Because in Peace Corps, Peace Corps volunteers, when you get into the community, you live with a host family for a couple of months, and then you move into your own little house. So when we're talking about host family, that's what we mean. And then so we got to work. He didn't have a lot of books already. We brought in a lot of the books. He had a lot of agricultural resources. I think that as an organization, we were kind of trying to figure out what to do with. So there's very clearly fiction and there's nonfiction. And he was an agricultural volunteer. And so there was a lot of stuff that farmers could use or different techniques and stuff like that. So I remember me and you and your niece Susanna, we just spent a long time like trying to figure out how to categorize useful materials.
Resource kind of things.
Right,
Yeah.
Right. So that was interesting. And then we were kind of on top of each other in that, which the photos are going to show. It's a very small building, you know, or we thought that we were on top of each other until
the direct TiVo. Yeah.
Right.
The directors of the library came, and there were, I don't remember how many,
probably like five or six. Yeah.
5 or 6 people. And they're the ones that were in charge, that built the building, that had made this commitment. And I remember I had these little cookies, and maybe we had coffee or Coke or whatever. And then when it was time for them to borrow books, Jeremy had set up the system where if you wanted to borrow a book, you had to give something in exchange. And then when you brought that back, you would get it back. And there were things like a knife was one guy's thing left.
Yeah.
A shirt was another. A hat was left. I mean, all these random things. And I had never heard of anybody who did that, and I haven't heard it since. But it worked well in that community. But I remember one man, and he was a small man, and he picked out his book, and they were sort of leaving, you know, we had done our thing, and he came up to me and he said, "I can't read." He said, "But my wife will read this to me." And it just made my heart explode. I mean, it was just such a beautiful moment. And we're fortunate when we do libraries, we have those moments, and it's so powerful. And it made the journey worth it. The journey was totally worth it, even though we were yeah. And
yeah.
Then the journey out.
Oh, the journey out was something else that we must discuss. But I just wanted to say that we did, you know, we got it finished and we got to see their committee. And I don't know if I've seen so few people commit so much to making the library happen. A lot of times we go places and they already have the building. They don't have to put things in to get in the building together. This committee had to, and a lot of credit goes to Jeremy too, for being so integrated to get this committee together, to get them to care, to see what it could do for their kids, and to raise the funds, to put the labor in the materials, the rules, and starting to use it. So I don't know if I've ever seen it happen quite like that on so few people, from literally the ground up to make the whole thing happen. But yeah, so we're ready to leave. It was confirmed the truck wasn't coming back, or he wasn't coming back the day that we needed to get out. But I think that we even packed up all our stuff, and we still were not sure how we were coming out of the site that day, you know, but we kind of needed to get out. I mean, we needed to, it was time to wrap it up.
we had like plane tickets. We had to get out and get on a plane
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And
from a mercantile truck to our next adventure, and then to another little thing, and then on a plane.
yeah,
So y-
yeah, we had to get out, but I don't remember if we
quickly I stepped from one culture to another.
yeah.
It
Yeah.
was very dramatic, but it was like a couple of hours, if that much, that we found out we were going out by hiking, and two um, horses carrying everything,
Right.
absolutely everything. Um, and you and Susanna were walking, but they
Right.
got a
Right.
horse for me because, yeah, I couldn't have done what y'all did. Uh, no way.
Oh,
And
man.
Jeremy kept saying the next hill, right? Over the next hill, over the next hill.
I said, when we finally got out of the forest, we come to just a sort of a red clay road that just felt endless, and you couldn't see every hill coming, but you could see the next one coming up. And I would say, I'd be like, and I love a good hike, Susan. I love an adventure. I'm all about that kind of stuff, but you do kind of like to know how long you're committed for.
And it was like straight
Yeah.
up. And it was hot. It was so
Right.
hot.
It was hot. And I just kept saying, so I started asking probably about an hour and a half in, oh, are we close? Because I'd come with him when I first came to the site before you guys came in. I watched the library go up. We'd hiked in, and it was probably like an hour and a half. So around that marker, I'm starting to think, we're ready to wrap this thing up. We're about to be in the other little town. We're going to hop on a bus, and this will all be a great story. And he's like, yeah, over the next hill, Susan, there was hills for another hour and a half. That thing was like a 3-hour hike.
Oh yeah, and I had a little kid, maybe he was 11 years old, guiding my horse and making sure it didn't go away with me on it.
And we did buy another thing that you can only do in, very remote places where everyone trusts everybody, is that as we were coming out of the woods, before we even made it to that road, we started stopping at houses of people that Jeremy knew up this hill or through those woods on the way out. And they made stuff. They made straw hats by hand and stuff like that. And you started buying them up for the auction that we have every year. As part of a One Library at a Time fundraiser, we started buying up. But I think that's when we realized that we'd sent everything of value, passports, money, water, on other horses ahead of us before we left the community. So we had nothing.
But the people, it was so amazing, because we were going, oh, we need to give you all these things back. And they were like, no, Jeremy, when you come back, bring the money.
Yeah.
So obviously, Jeremy was embedded in the community and trusted.
Yeah.
So we did send the money back, but doing the one thing you never do when you're traveling.
Yeah.
Keep
Which
your
that was about
passport
5
on
years
you.
ago.
Yeah. Keep your passport, keep your money, and keep water.
Right. Which that was about 5 years ago. So, we were learning things, But when we made it out, out, off the road, and we finally made it to the place where we're going to get on a bus, like we saw our two horses sitting there with everything on them. And I took whatever change I had, Susan, and I went to the nearest little tienda store window, and I bought, I'd had so many hunger waves pass that at this point I was just famished by the time we roll up and have completed the walking journey. Oh man, but it was it might be one of the best memories I have so far. So, and probably, like you said, one of the most off grid, out of the way, no water, no electricity, ones that we've done as an organization.
Oh yeah. And just in 5 years, I can't sleep on a yoga mat anymore.
So
But
I'm thinking,
that's what we had.
yeah.
So, and
I
it was
think I need to
fine
get another
because I
one
was
in.
so tired. I was so
Yeah.
tired by the time it came time to go to bed that, yeah, I could sleep on a yoga mat.
You could knock out pretty easily. Yeah. So I'm
No,
thinking maybe I need to get another one in. Maybe it's time to go off grid again in this next year or two. Are you down for it, Susan? Or
we'll have to see. Yeah, it takes, we always travel in the rough a little bit, and we stay at hostels, we stay at Peace Corps volunteers' houses. We do everything we can to save money and to put the most of the money into books. But also, we have the opportunity to be embedded in another culture and another community. But as far off grid as that community was, they felt empowered by this library.
Yeah.
In a way that was truly amazing. And it was a way that made me say, yeah, this is what I should be doing. This is good work.
Yeah.
And I still feel this way. And I've been off grid a lot, but usually there's water and electricity, or one or the other. You know, so we always bring flashlights and, little tiny flashlights. I know I have one that I hang around my neck.
And stuff to clean the water. Don't you have a
Yeah, I have one of those. I got it from, and you put it in the water, and there's ultraviolet light that kills the bad things, and so purifies the water so you can drink. It sometimes isn't very clear water, but all the bad bacteria has been cleared. So even if we're somewhere where there is clean water, I use it anyway.
Yeah.
Just to be double safe. Every library teaches us something. And this one definitely taught us a lot. Us a lot. But still, we were the recipients. We were the ones that, these people found the horses for us. I can't remember how much we paid, but it was not much.
No.
And the people wanted this, and they did, but they committed to it in a way that is probably the most committed, because they had to do everything.
Yeah.
We say you have to have shelves. That's one of the commitments of the community, but I don't think I've ever been someplace where not only did they have to build shelves, they had to build the building.
Yeah.
But they were committed. When we got there, they were committed. They had their, board of directors. And we got to see all that.
Yeah. And learn some stuff too, though. It was definitely experience. I think I'd up to have another one here, sooner rather than later.
every library has a story, and every library teaches us something new. So we're constantly revising stuff, tweaking it. And we also know better the communities we're going into.
Right.
So we know it's going to be off grid and it's going to have da, 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 da. We know it's going to use another, a slightly different language. You know, Panama City, it sounds like you're in the States. You're speaking Spanish, but it's, and then you go off grid and there's some nuances that are different.
Yeah, a lot of sayings, a lot of dialect that comes from that specific place. And then this community too was something that we forgot, was that it was a lot of the children that started learning Spanish, but the indigenous people were still speaking their tribal languages. And so I think we were able to buy some books that had been printed in the tribal languages, Nobe and also Spanish, because that's what the children's learning in school. So so that was almost trilingual in some spaces in that library.
And they weave together. They weave the Nobe language in with the Spanish language. So in one sentence, you kind of have to pick out the words. And,
yeah.
And that's true pretty much in every country. You know, some countries stop is alto. Some countries it's pare. You know,
different various words for the same thing. Yeah. And then when you start getting in a third language, it's very much a mixture. Sometimes hard to keep up with, but a lot of fun to learn.
Well, we need to wrap this up. I hope you've enjoyed our memories. We had a great time.
Yeah, we did. And make sure to look at the photos we're going to post, because it's going to make everything we're talking about seem a little bit more clear.
Yeah, we were definitely embedded in the culture.
Yeah.
Thanks to Jeremy.
Thanks to Jeremy Peaceful.
And the other thing we did is I just said that you're my niece because it was too complicated. Because you're my husband's cousin's daughter.
Yeah.
And there's no way to explain all that.
Yeah, there's some relations.
I had my niece Susanna with me, and I had my niece Rachel. So
we're one big family traveling.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right. Well, you want to come back next week, Susan?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay.
All right. Y'all have
Thanks
a
for
good
watching.
day. Bye.